We can make them.
Not now.
All right.
Smart board meeting on September 26, 2024 to order. The clerk, roll call, please.
Chairperson Abdul Haddis,
Present.
Vice Chairperson John Paul Rea,
Present.
Ms. Sheila Cote,
Present.
Dr. Curtis Ivory, Mr. Royce Manico,
Here.
Ms. Diana McBroom, Mr. Brett Rizigan.
Present.
Now, please join me. Pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
one nation. Thank you. Item. The adoption of the agenda.
Also move, Mr. Chairman. Support.
Motion been made and supported in the discussion. Being signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Certification, Ms. Martin. Of public notice.
Marble hold the September 26, 2024 Board Directors Meeting on Thursday at
Thank you. Item 6A, board meeting minute for July 25, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the board meeting minutes as presented.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Being none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item, the nominating committee report from the chairperson of the nominating committee.
I would like to report that the nominating committee elected JP Rea as chair and Brett Razagan as vice chair.
Any other nomination? Any other nomination? Twice? Any other nomination? Motion and order. Motion in order for the nomination. And support, okay. All those who agree signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. Any public participation? Anybody from the public like to participate or comment? Please state your name and your address. What we have, 2 minutes? Yes,
So you can remove items O and P from the
Yeah,
agenda,
please.
please.
yes, you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to the proposed agenda with removal of items O and P.
Motion been made
Support.
and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item O and P been moved from the agenda. Okay. Now we go back to the public participation.
Hi, my name is Stephen Hammondtree, and I'm from East Point, Michigan. Pardon me for not coming down the stairs to the podium today, but I am in a little bit of pain. I wanted to admonish the board for several cancellations of board meetings. A quorum not present does not mean the meeting has to be canceled outright. It just means that the board cannot make official business decisions. The public could still give comments or meet with staff that they sometimes do unofficially just around the meetings when they're in the same place. Additionally, I would like to complain about SMART having not followed public input procedure for route eliminations. There are 4 routes that have been, quote, temporarily suspended due to a national emergency that has been declared over for nearly a year and a half. As well as 7 further routes that have a severe reduction in service. There has been no opportunity for public comment on these changes, and I'm wondering if when something's going to happen and things are going to stop being in limbo with them. Additionally, Ms. McBroom, welcome to the board. I hope you enjoy your time here. Thank you, and that is all.
Thank you. Anybody else from audience like to come, please?
Hello? Yeah. My name is Brother Cunningham, 313-444-9114, 313-444-9114, 313-444-9114. That number was made so you can remember it. I'm here again about the public comment portion being hybrid. Miko Williams had come with me at one board meeting, and he represents the disabled community. I'm disabled myself, but I get around. If I drag one leg after another, I'll do that. But there's a lot of folks that are hybrid public comment, because we have hybrid, right? But the public comment, that's the key portion, should be hybrid as well. For those who have some maybe mobility challenges, can't get over here, can't get over there. Thank you for having things hybrid as they are, but a hybrid public comment would be nice. I hear some good news. I'm gonna leave it at that today about the Woodward Fast. But I'm praying about that and that it will come to fruition. But basically, I just want to harp on not everybody's able-bodied. Some people have an opinion, they have viewpoints, and they may not be able to make it. And so a hybrid, again, it is hybrid, but a hybrid public comment would be greatly appreciated. And I thank everybody for the work they've done with the contract. And I talked to a lot of drivers, DDOT and SMART, and a lot of DDOT drivers are trying to get over to SMART. And DDOT trains their drivers straight from a driver's license to the CDLB. And out of fairness, it should be that SMART won't take a driver maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years at DDOT, some type of stipulation or policy, because this doesn't seem to be fair since Detroit's paying for the training, actually paying these folks to get a CDLB and then training them to be a bus driver. They start the folks off from scratch, keywords from scratch, and taking them over to SMART doesn't, you know, at 1 year, 2 years on the job, it seems to be unfair to DDOT. Thank you. I pray for you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment?
Hello, my name is Marcus Ambrosi, Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. I moved there about 3 years ago and have been a pretty regular rider. We did the one car thing, the family, and I rode the 620. I work downtown, so I rode the 620 for a while. No showed a couple times on me, so I stopped taking that as frequently. Still did take it for a while, or still do, I should say. So I noticed that the 620 is getting eliminated on the new proposal. My backup was the 635. 635 is getting eliminated on the new proposal. I saw that both of them have about 25, 26 regular riders per day. I think that's pretty good. I mean, the buses are pretty full when I'm on it. So I would suggest you keep those. I like the proposed 610 going all the way downtown, which is great. Enhances the frequency. The 615 to go from Mack and Alter to Mack and Gratiot is I don't know why anybody would go between Alter and Gratiot. It's not a useful route. So I don't know where that came from. Mac and Gratiot is not a good place to transfer. Just having taken that route many times, it's not really useful. So I would just say, if you can keep the 620, the 635, great job with the 610, cut out the between Mac and Alter and Mac and Gratiot. Thanks.
Yes, Angela Cope, Wayne County.
Right.
Oh, yes, hello, I just want to address a concern that I received from a smart board official by the name of Vicky Jordan. She responded to my complaint regarding issue of a passenger threatening and harassing me. She responded on September the 12th of this year. And she indicated that Mr. Ray was kind enough to send her email to Mr. Bernard and her concerning my matter. But she went on saying that our drivers are not equipped, these are her words, to intervene on any police matter regarding passenger-to-passenger interaction. It is not in the smart driver's best interest to get involved. The driver can call the police, however, they have to be very careful not to put other people's lives in danger, meaning that my life can be put in danger, I guess. And also, I sent in a complaint regarding how the one smart bus driver called the police on a young man who had a scooter, but that was acceptable, I guess, to call police on a guy with a scooter versus somebody who threatened to attack somebody. And also, I was informed back on January 3rd by a smart bus driver that the smart officials are telling them that their lives can be threatened. I recorded her saying that. So if their lives can be threatened, then I guess our lives can be threatened too. I just feel like this is unacceptable for a smart board official saying that Black lives don't matter. If I was to get attacked, that's okay, you know? But I mean, I know one thing, if I ever get assaulted on the bus and nobody helps me, I will file a lawsuit against Smart, you know? And for her to say that my life doesn't matter because I'm not a smart board official, that's not, that's unethical, you know? I mean, why she's working for Smart, you know, person, and she needs it for a paycheck, her, and that's not just her, it's Shannon White too. Okay.
My name is Claudette Delahaye from Southfield, Michigan. As I've maintained with myself and all of you at the meetings, and by the way, good afternoon, everybody. Excuse my manners. That you can't rub Pete in Troy to allow Paul to ride in Novi. I don't know if it's evident, if it was evident at the time, but the new system that you have in place that you set up for the schedule, it is not sufficient. And apparently seems to be the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It's not sufficient. It's not serving. You purposefully expanded and the system is not sufficient. Now we are in the second run pick of this. And if it's not, it wasn't apparent then, it should be now. People are getting left late night with no buses on the 405 schedule. There's probably about at least 100 people now that have lost their jobs. And my question is, you know, who's serving who? And I don't feel like the people are getting served properly. We've had cuts in Southfield, early morning cuts for our runs on the 405, 415, 420. They're still continuing. And so my concern is that if you're looking to the future to expand the service even more, with a shortage of bus drivers, buses, or both, given what time of the year it is and what the situation is. Can the director explain why he insisted in having the system expand its service when there are insufficient buses and insufficient drivers? It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense going into the future. So that's point number one. Point number two is Royal Oak Transit Center. Since SEMTA, you have not changed the title deed to that property. And that small property in Royal Oak on Sherman, which you call the transit center, does not bear the title deed of SMART. It bears the title deed of SEMTA. And the building is pockmarked with no trespassing, no loitering. So I would like to say this much. There's an old saying, live and let live. And if you want to be right, you won't be happy. I've talked to Royal Oak Police just before I got here. They do not enforce loitering. And they will enforce behavior that is basically inappropriate. If people are sleeping on the bench, they do not disturb them. That's their mandate. They do not disturb people when they're sleeping. So, would you like to take down the signs because they're unwelcoming, they're unfriendly, and they look rather extreme? And also there is a signage across the street from the building that is not a part of the building. Thank you.
Hello again, members of the board, Lucas Lasecki from Farmington Hills. To begin, I would like to sort of make the case for expanding the scope of the Smarter Mobility program because while there are some pretty impressive recommendations that have been made by the consultants under the current scope of the program, they are still very constrained by the limited resources SMART currently has and do not make any allowance for potential expanded resources that would allow SMART to develop a truly world-class system. By comparison, the DDOT Reimagined plan that is being finished now, it makes recommendations of what can be done now with DDOT's current resources, but what can be done with more resources, which lead to some really impressive service recommendations, but SMART's program does not make a similar recommendation. I spoke with the consultants and they said it was sort of out of their ballpark because SMART didn't ask for that. So I'm asking SMART to ask for that some more recommendations could be made of what could be done with more resources, partially to give us the case to ask policymakers for more resources for SMART to operate, because I think that's a goal that we all share. We do want SMART to do better and have more to work with. The other point I would like to make is to echo Brother Cunningham's point that we do need virtual participation back for this board of directors. It was removed during the April 2023 meeting with no apparent explanation. I actually gave to date the last virtual public comment at this board during that meeting. And that really does impact the ability of people to address this board if they cannot make it to the Buell Building or any other location at 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon or in the evening, as has been done previously. That these limits to public participation shouldn't be in place, and given that Zoom is being used to stream this meeting, it would be very easy, in my understanding, to add this opportunity back for people to address the board virtually. I've never understood why it was removed, and I would kindly ask you to restore that opportunity for virtual public comment. And third, since that is not available, the only other recourse for people to address the board without physically attending the meetings is to send in written public comments. It is the policy of this board to read those into the record, but for the past few meetings, those have not been read into the record, and a lot of my colleagues and volunteers at TRU have written in public comments that haven't been read, and they feel that their voices haven't been heard. So I would ask that SMART read these comments into the record at this meeting and all following. Thank you for your time.
Do the vote. Well, that dropped, sorry.
Yes. Good afternoon, board members, riders, and involved citizens. I'm Mike, the bus stop guy from Chesterfield Township, Michigan, Macomb County. First, I'd like to thank the board, the support team, and anyone else involved in approving some key bus routes that are proposed and hopefully approved soon. In my area, expanding the route west on 23 is a big one. Also expanding the Van Dyke to 26, that ties in with that, is terrific. And the really, really big one is Hall Road. I mean, hundreds of businesses and we haven't had a bus on Hall Road. I know it wasn't really built for that, but you know, we can always work things out. But today I'd like to focus on the unsanitary, unsightly condition of the bus stop shelters. Last time I had my prop and I can't believe I forgot it. It's in the trunk of my car. You know, that grabber, so you don't have to pick up all that food and all that stuff with your hand, you know? So I wonder have any of you actually visited a shelter and like looked in there and saw what the floor looks like? All the trash, cigarette butts and all that? Well, I highly suggest that all of you get on the bus, head out roadward, in my case, head out Gratiot, wherever, and evaluate their condition. In many, actually, all cases, they're appalling. This is really disgusting. Believe me, I do it. As a matter of fact, I've hired a company to power wash my shelters, to clean the windows. I mean, this is a service we're trying to provide to the riders. I mean, why isn't this like way up there on the priority list? I don't really get it. I know there's approximately 100 shelters in Macomb County, more or less. And there were four employees, 2 teams for quite some time. And talking to Mark Starnes, who is very, very helpful. Thank you, Mark. I think they're up to maybe 5 or 6 maintenance for like 100 or so. If you're gonna do it right, that ain't enough. So also as an adoptee, the supplies provided are inadequate. Especially like I said, the grabber, we all need grabbers. It's $10 at the hardware store. And the only way to really clean the disgusting concrete, again, is to power wash. Now, Mark said we finally have a power wash unit, but it doesn't include water. So, I mean, if you're somewhere and you ain't got any water, you ain't gonna power wash it. So, look at the concrete. I mean, I've gone out there with concrete cleaner, take buckets of water. You can't clean that up any other way. So let's consider the people who are going to be using these. And as okay, real quick. All right, I'm sorry. They are disgusting.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Chairman Haddis, we have 2 emails here. One is extensive from Robert Floyd. I would like to forward to the board with your permission.
Please.
And then the other one is from Robert Pulowski that I would also like to forward to the board with your permission.
Proceed.
Thank you. Public comment is closed.
Chairman report, and I think I don't have one, but I like to tell everybody we heard you loud and clear, and I think the staff looking into some of the answer to some of those questions. If anybody like to know that, communicate with the administration. Now, item 10, the general manager report. Mr. Farrell.
Ms. Gunter is going to do the general manager's report.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Farrell and Mr. Chair. A couple of things to report out today. One, to try to address some of what we've heard today in the public comment space. We do understand, and we are grateful to have completed the negotiations with each of our collective bargaining units. We understand that the bus operators, I want everyone in the room to understand that we cannot limit who applies for and who we hire at SMART. We do also train those coming with just a driver's license through to CDL and do the same program for training for our drivers as DDOT does for theirs. We have the same level of investment in our drivers. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that, yes, even when we train our drivers at times, after a day of work, they may choose to go and take that CDL somewhere else. It is a risk that we all take, but we cannot limit who it is we allow to apply for and subsequently who we hire at SMART. The other item that we do want to talk about is our staff comes to these meetings. Our vice presidents come to these meetings and their staff as well, to be able to try to have conversations with and address the public as they make their comments. They are here to be a resource to those who are coming to make public comment. Please utilize that opportunity to speak with them. That is why they are here, to also learn about what's happening at SMART as well. On another note, we are just completing a round of public participation led by our VP of Planning and Innovation with Ms. Harmony Lloyd. What you are hearing in those proposals and those recommendations are just that it is an iterative process. We are collecting information. Nothing is yet set in stone. We will be taking what we've heard in this first round of public comment, having conversations, coming back out to the public again to discuss further what the options are. Just a friendly reminder, what you saw in the first round of proposals were two very distinctive options. One was dealing with frequency and the other dealing with coverage. So frequency, how often a bus will arrive at a location, and coverage, how much of the region we will actually cover. We all know, we are aware that we can't do anything so extreme on one side or the other, but that is why we showed them in that way, so people understand that this is a trade-off analysis that we are entering into. So please continue to participate as we host public meetings, both online and in person. Lastly, not lastly, one more thing before last is I do want to address the concern that we are canceling meetings lightly. That is not something that we take lightly. When we cannot achieve quorum, we do reach out to the advocacy community, their leadership, and we ask questions about preference. We understand that it takes a lot for some people to traverse this community and to get to our board meetings. And so to show up and not be able to accomplish business, we ask questions before we cancel meetings. So please do understand that it's not something that we do lightly, that we do seek out our partners to ask their advice before canceling a meeting, and have done so for the, I believe, 3 cancellations that we have had to have in the last 2 years. So on that, I always want to end on a positive note, and I do want to acknowledge something that happened just this week. On Tuesday evening, we got an emergency call. It turned out to be a positive. Let's go there. It did not start out as a positive. That is absolutely true. A lot of people were adversely impacted. But on Tuesday, the Inkster Police Department reached out to Daniel Whitehouse, our VP of Paratransit, and asked for our help at SMART in an attempt to evacuate nearly 100 residents from a senior high-rise during a fire. And with a commendable coordination alongside the City of Inkster Police Department and Emergency Services, our team utilized 5 paratransit buses and 2 fixed route buses. We pulled Deshalon into the conversation quickly after that first call was made. And under the guidance of our road supervisors, Otis Daniel and Clifton Divers, were able to evacuate those persons and get them safely to their destinations. This was roughly 10 p.m. I remember the call. Yeah, yeah, we went from about 8 to midnight. Yes. Okay. So despite that late hour and limited available drivers, our staff did go above and beyond to ensure that these residents were transported safely. And we are grateful truly for their bravery and swift action. And we had some people volunteer even without being asked to chip in. So we are Happy to see that, I believe tomorrow at the Wayne Terminal, where we sort of originated the vehicles from, the City of Inkster Police Department is coming to thank our drivers. So good, great job, guys. Thank you so much. And Mr. Chairman. This concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item. It's item A, it's HR hiring update.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I turned off my microphone in error. And I am back. So on your screen, you should see I'll continue. Thank you so much. Our update for September, which runs through August 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2024, period of 1 month. We hired 20 fixed route operators and 13 paratransit operators for a total of 33 new hires. This now brings our total targeted, we can go to the next slide, number of drivers, which we know we have budgeted 426. We now have 376, leaving 50 drivers remaining to be onboarded and hired then onboarded. This is the closest we've come to closing that deficit for the longest time, which sort of rested at 100 to 117 of a shortage of drivers. So this is an exciting time, and we see that number narrowing more and more since we were able to close out negotiations successfully. So we're looking forward to closing that gap and having our operators fully staffed soon on the fixed route side. On paratransit, next slide. We have a total budget of 142 drivers currently right now. Danny's sitting pretty with 133 of those drivers staffed up and ready to go. 9 still to go, and we still have more applications coming in for those positions and look to be fully staffed in the coming months. So with that, this concludes my hiring report.
Thank you. Okay. This time we move to a new business. Authorization. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you speak on them. Okay.
Coming up and then I paused because I was.
Thank you. I was gonna.
Threw me off for a minute.
No
Good
problem.
afternoon.
My fault. My apologies.
We're good. We're good. Well, I'm glad that Tiffany ended on that last slide because that's going to kind of tie into what we're going to talk about today. I'll just wait for the presentation to come up. All right. All right. So we're going to jump ahead 2 slides. We're going to talk about Q1 and Q2 for the paratransit ridership and other statistic report. You can go to the next slide, DeAndre. Actually. Okay. So between Q1 and Q2 of 23 and 24, we have seen a decline in ridership. Now this ridership encompasses both our general service and our ADA. Our ADA continues to grow. But due to the driver shortage that you've been aware of that we're now closing the gap on, that has impacted the general service availability. So we're seeing that now trend more positively as we have brought new drivers on. But as we can see that we saw a drop in ridership on a demand response over the past few quarters. Next slide. So unfortunately, this has also had an impact on our on-time performance. The on-time performance is still pretty strong, near 90%, but we've seen this impacted by 2 reasons. One, the driver shortage and driver call-offs, which then have had us, try and merge work so drivers can get as many passengers. But also, as we have talked about, some of the software challenges that we've gone through, particularly in this year, have impacted our on-time performance as well. So as we are back on our current software platform, we are seeing more positivity, but we've had impacts in both quarters of trying to change the paratransit technology. All right, so next slide, we're going to talk specifically the breakdown on the weekday where, as we talked about the service as a whole, we see that that impact of drop in ridership is more significant during the weekday. And that's because that's when that demand response is available or with the driver shortage was not available for riders in the region. Next slide, Deandra. And this is reflected also in the on-time performance on the weekday. So Deandra, next slide. So now we're going to move to our Saturday service, which probably is growing. I've told a lot of people when I took over this role, we had about 3 or 4 drivers working on Saturdays. We're up to about 23 now. And that's in the last decade. That's how much ridership on the weekend has grown on the paratransit side. And it's continuing to grow with the new routes and just more opportunities. Riders are riding more on the weekends. And it's very nice to see. So we're seeing that continue to grow. All right, next slide. So this is our on-time performance for the past few quarters, the Q1 and Q2, as it relates specifically to Saturday, still very strong at about 90%. And then on Sunday, it's seen the greatest growth. So we used to run about 3 buses on Sunday, and now we are up to, I think, 14. So Sunday growth is there as well. Again, as we have routes that are running 7 days a week, we're seeing people utilizing that more on the paratransit side. And so that growth has been very nice to see. A little bit different from our drivers, but they've adjusted very well to that. And the last slide we're going to showcases the on-time performance for Sunday. And again, that stays really strong around 90%, and that's pretty consistent. So before we move on to Flex, is there any questions from the board?
The question for Mr. Whitehouse? And none?
Okay.
See.
All right. Thank you. So then we'll move to the next report. All right, we can move to the next slide. So we wanted to showcase where the rides exactly are on the Flex service per county. So this is a heat map showing the Oakland County zones and where the biggest concentrations are. So you might ask, well, what are the biggest populations or places people are going, right? And in Pontiac, we're looking at the mall and Myers. We're looking in Troy at Walmart and the mall as well. Farmington, we go to OCC, the Kroger. So we're looking at both education, shopping, and leisure trips as being the biggest foundation for travel for Flex, as well as work-related trips. Deandra, next slide. So this is a heat map showing the common trips and common trip patterns within the Macomb County zone. This stretches across Hall Road, going as far west as Mound Road, where GFL is located, as far east as New Baltimore near Chesterfield. And then lastly, the Wayne County or Dearborn zone, as we know it. Again, we see the same ridership patterns, leisure trips, school trips, or educational based trips, and then shopping trips and even dialysis trips in that zone. All right, so next slide. So now we're going to look overall. We continue to see ridership growth by quarter. We have seen a kind of a leveling out around the 30,000 trip mark per month. And then within that, we are seeing rises in some of the other, the zones that performed lower for the past few years. So Troy, for example, the ridership has almost doubled in the past year. And that has come to, as a result of last year, you as a board approved for more vehicles to come online, mainly wheelchair vehicles, but there were more vehicles as part of that and more hours. That has allowed us to dedicate vehicles to every zone, specifically wheelchair related vehicles to every zone. We're going to see some of those stats here in a minute, but that's enabled those zones to really thrive and grow. Troy in particular, Dearborn and Farmington as well. So moving to the next slide, we're going to look at the average ETA. And here we see it's remaining consistent. While we did have a slight uptick in wait time going from 19 to 20 minutes, excuse me, it's remained consistent at 20 minutes across the zones. The next zone, next slide. So as we look at the wheelchair rate, we are seeing actually a difference in our response times for, I'm sorry, it should be the next slide. Right. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. My apologies. Okay, yep, thank you. So we have seen now with the new and extra wheelchair accessible vehicles in each zone that our response time has drastically improved. So we are seeing wait times for weight vehicles in the difference of about 8 to 10 minutes in some zones. And there are now zones that our wait time for a weight vehicle at certain periods of the day is better than a non-weight vehicle. So that is a direct attribution to us putting more vehicles out there that are wheelchair equipped and being able to respond within each zone in a much more efficient manner. Okay. All right, next slide. So the utilization of all zones is still remaining the same. Our goal when we launched this program was to have roughly 2 rides per hour. And as we've talked about in numerous presentations, that we have continued to exceed that in nearly all zones. The one zone that was lacking was the Troy zone. And now with the increased ridership, we're reaching that 2 mark most of the months, or coming right at about 1.9 rides per hour. All right, next slide. So the average ride distance, we saw a slight decline on this. Not really sure why. Shorter trips, but not drastically shorter trips in each zone, which has also helped improve the number of trips because vehicles are being freed up in a much more consistent manner. Next slide. And then the cost per ride, you will see that increase, and that increase is due to the new contract that we have with our vendor. In December of last year, we entered a new contract with VIA, which had a larger hourly rate by about $2 per hour. So that's contributed to some changes in the cost per ride. So with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have on the Flex service.
Any question for Ed? Yes, you did a good job. Thank
Motion
you.
to receive and file, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? All those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, motion carry. Next item, the fixed route. Okay, it's Lloyd.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I know Danny just gave you a lot of numbers, so we're going to keep mine short and sweet. 3 slides, that's it. Next slide. All right, so here is an overall fixed route total ridership for the system. This is for Q2, which is April, May, and June. The red line is 2024 compared to the blue line, 2023. So good news across the board, it's increased. It's about a 9.3% increase year over year. And you can see there is some deviation by month. That's not uncommon. May has more service days than June does. So you see it dip. It also typically dips in summer. So you'll see that, and then it'll kick back up as it gets into fall in our next report. I won't read all those numbers for you, but the overall number is about 1.78 for million for 2024, and it was 1.6 million in 2023. Next slide. I picked these stats just so that each county could see something that is in their county. This is the top ridership by county. In Oakland County, as you can imagine, it's the fast Woodward. It's roughly 70,000 passengers a month that are moved on Woodward. Next comes the Fast Michigan in Wayne County, and that's about 37,000 passengers a month. And then in Macomb County, it's the 560, the Fast Gratiot, and that is our highest ridership route, and that is about 75,000 per month. And then finally, last slide. I did. Just want to highlight the 492 Rochester, some route-specific information because that's such a new route. It actually started during this quarter that we're covering, the second quarter. Started in April, April 22nd. So there was only 8 days of service in April, and there was a little over 2,000 riders. But now we're seeing, as you can see, ridership is in between 6,000 and 7,000 a month. So that is fantastic for a brand new route that is new to the public, and we're seeing them really respond, and we expect that to continue to go up. So that's all I have with that. I can answer any questions or provide more information.
Any question?
Motion to receive and file, Mr. Chair. Well done, Harmony. Thanks for the numbers.
Motion been made. and
Support.
Supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item. Okay, authorization to award a contract for vehicle and general liability third-party administrator service. 12A.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hattis, members of the board. Smart staff requests that the board authorize a resolution granting a contract for vehicle and general liability third-party administration services to the ASU Group for 3 years, beginning December 1st, 2024, for a total amount not to exceed $1,418,400, with 2 one-year renewal options not to exceed $488,800 per year. SMART does not employ claims handlers and therefore contracts with a third-party administrator for those services. 3 proposals were evaluated, and the ASU Group was determined to be the most advantageous to SMART, taking into account price and other factors.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I'll support it, Mr. Chairman.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item, 12B, approval to bid on hosting the 2026 American Public Transportation.
The American Public Transportation Association organizes a yearly seminar in which transit board members and board administrators come together for peer exchange and professional development, onboard governance, and policy development for public transportation agencies. Transit agencies must submit bids to APTA to be considered as hosts of future seminars. Therefore, Smart Staff seeks board approval to submit a bid to host the 2026 Transit Board Members and Board Administrators APTA Seminar in Detroit. I'm open for any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, how many days is the seminar? Is it-
3 to 4.
And how many attendees typically?
At the last one we had in San Jose, we had almost 200. And that was board members and TBAs.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Make a resolution to approve the bid for hosting the 2026 American Public Transportation Association Transit Board Members Board Administration Seminar.
Motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment.
Mr. Monaco.
Under discussion. I have attended a couple of these different board member meetings at different seminars, and they've been very, very educational for me. I also had the opportunity to meet a number of transit officials and transit board members from other parts of the United States, and had many opportunities to talk to them over the years about transit issues. And it was very exciting for me to attend this. I'm still on the mailing list and get the weekly or monthly seminar information and the transit board member meetings. So if there is an opportunity to attend this, certainly I'd be very much interested in this, and I urge all the other board members to go also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Comment? Not, we move to item 12C, approval of Smart Terminal Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, DBE. Goal for submission to the Federal Transit Administration.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. SMART is required to submit a DBE goal triennially to the Federal Transit Administration that complies with DOT DBE regulations. Staff recommends board approval of the overall proposed DBE goal of 18.3% for federal fiscal years 2024, 25, and 26. Staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Any question? Go ahead, please.
Says that SMART will apply to projected overall annual DBE goal of 6.1% annual average funding for 40 million, et cetera, result in projected average of 8.4 million, et cetera, in FTA funds to be made available certified firms. I just kind of a point of clarification. I'm assuming that if there is a DBE firm that is otherwise qualified to do other work, DBEs are not limited to that amount, but that is a minimum?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. I sometimes think the public gets a little confused that the pie is sliced and sort of that's DBE firms are somewhat limited to that. So I just want to be clear that it's.
That's correct.
Can I ask also, if we do not reach this goal, what are the consequences?
Let me answer that one.
Ms. Farrell?
Each firm is expected to put forth a good faith effort. What they have to document as to why they were not able to meet the goal going forward. Just for the public, and I believe it is in October, our first vice president of DBE is coming on board. And part of what we will be doing is a more in-depth survey of disadvantaged businesses that are in the area, more so than, because we will have more resources than what we've had in order to be able to do that. And at some point, it's our desire to be able to expand this beyond just disadvantaged businesses, but to women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And just to note, I'm taking into consideration the political times in which we are in. As an FTA grant recipient, we must do this. We don't have a specific amount we must give. So it's not a set aside. It's not a quota. It's a goal. And so I want to make sure that we're clear on that. The DBE is a goal, but organizations can go above and beyond that, as I mentioned, with veterans owned, women owned, et cetera, et cetera. So that is something that I think as an organization we'll move towards. But for right now, getting the DBE program in place to make sure that we stay compliant with the Federal Transit Administration is where we start.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the SMART DBE goal for submission to the FTA.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Item 12D, authorization to implement a wage increase for non-represented employee. Ryan?
Good afternoon. The Finance Department and the Human Resources Department of SMART are recommending a 4% across the board wage increase for non-represented employees and the general manager's contract. This increase is provided for in the fiscal year 25 budget. And I am available for any questions.
Any question?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025. I make a motion to authorize and implement wage increases for non-representative employees as presented.
Motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12E, approval of the fiscal year 2025 Unified Work Program Budget and Local Match. It's Lloyd.
Good afternoon again. Staff is recommending board approval of the resolution authorizing the general manager to execute a project agreement with SEMCOG for an FTA Section 8 Technical Studies Grant. This is a grant commonly known as the Unified Work Program. It's an annual grant that SMART gets from SEMCOG that allows us to conduct our planning activities throughout the year. It provides funding for staff to conduct ridership studies, route planning, and work on various projects like the Smarter Mobility Study, the soon-to-be Pontiac Mobility Hub Study, and Fleet Transition Study. This year's grant will also allow funding for staff to manage the Smart Bus Stop Inventory project that we'll be embarking on shortly. This grant is for $389,500, of which Smart's 18.15 match is $70,694, and it has been included in this year's budget. I can answer any questions.
Any question for Ms. Lloyd? Seeing none, motion and order.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. I think next item yours too, Ms. Lloyd. Approval to enter into a construction and use agreement for the park and ride area at the Michigan Department of Transportation and Wixon Carpool Lots.
Yes, thank you. Staff is recommending board approval of the resolution approving the general manager to execute a project agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, for the use of the Wixom Carpool parking lot and construction permitting bus access to said lot. This will allow SMART to serve park and ride users in Wixom and Western Oakland County. The construction work will include a reinforced concrete bus lane, pull-off area signage, and any necessary environmental work. The cost is a one-time payment to MDOT of $239,000, and we do have capital funding available for this project.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the construction and use agreement for the park and ride lot with MDOT for the Wixom Carpool lot.
Motion been made and
Second.
supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Can I also make a motion to end the construction on I-96?
Motion denied. Next item, 12G, it's authorization to enter into interlocal agreement with Oakland County for transit service for veteran and their dependents within Oakland County. Mr. Whitehouse.
Good afternoon again. Staff recommends board approval for the resolution authorizing SMART to enter into an interlocal agreement with Oakland County to provide and facilitate transportation for veterans within the county. The interlocal agreement will begin October 1st, 2024 and run through September 30th of 2025. The reimbursement of fares for passengers who ride through this program will be through the Veterans Grant through Oakland County Veterans Association. And in the event the grant is not available, reimbursement will be held or obtained through Oakland County and their budget itself. The interlocal agreement is an extension and in addition to what we have been doing for the past few months. Back in May, the board approved the initial interlocal agreement that ran through the end of this month, and so this will be continuing that program. To date, we have provided over 1,500 rides through this for veterans within the county. So it's a growing program and very nice that they're able to continue it. So with that, I will take any questions that the board may have.
Any question for Mr. Whitehall?
I would just like to make a comment that to support you in this effort. We have something similar in Macomb and it's a great program. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
See, motion in order.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item 12H, authorization to award contract for tablet for community vehicle. Mr. Whitehouse.
Thank you. SMART recommends board approval of the resolution authorizing the purchase of 150 tablets and cradle kits, as well as subscription for these tablets to Strategic Systems at 8345 154th Avenue in Redford, Washington. These tablets will be used by community partners within the vehicle. As work comes to the units, it allows them to see the work passengers that they need to pick up and also offers communication between the dispatch as well as the driver. The RFP process provided 2 responses with a favorable quote from Strategic at a price not to exceed $133,200. This project is funded by both federal and state grant funds. And as I mentioned, this will come with a 3-year subscription for those software, for the software technology to be utilized within those tablets. With that, I will entertain any questions the board may have.
There were no Michigan companies bidding on this.
There were not, no.
Motion be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Support. Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item, authorization to award contract for uniform for buses operators, road supervisor, and dispatcher. Brownlee.
Good afternoon. Board Chair, board
Thank you.
members, General Manager, Deputy General Manager, and staff. Thanks for allowing me to present this recommendation to the board. Staff recommends board approval for the ratification of the contract of uniforms for bus operators, road supervisors, and dispatchers. Approval of this contract will allow staff to utilize 2 vendors, 1 local and 1 e-commerce vendor. The local vendor will allow our newly hired bus operators, road supervisors, and dispatchers to be uniformed immediately. The e-commerce vendor will be available for our established operators, road supervisors, and dispatchers to use with a 30-day turnaround for delivery. The e-commerce vendor has also provided information for a localized tailor for alterations if needed with no additional cost. Currently, SMART provides uniform allowances to operators and supervisors upon completion of training in the amount of $625 and a yearly allowance of $425 for bus operators and $350 per year for supervisors and dispatchers. SMART is currently budgeted for 426 fixed route operators, 143 paratransit operators, and 60 supervisory staff. Who will utilize this contract? Alley Brother Uniforms at 20295 Middle Belt Road, Livonia, Michigan, 48152, and Galls LLC 1340 Russell Cave, Lexington, Kentucky, have been selected to perform under the terms and conditions of this contract. This is a 3-year contract with 2 1-year option renewals. The contract awarded is not to exceed the amount of $921,000 for 3 years and $1,535,000 for 5 years. The purchases made under this contract will utilize operating funds. Staff is available for questions.
The question, Dr. Ivory?
Well, obviously, this is, for the lowest responsible bidder. My question would be, what are we doing specifically to attract, vendors from Michigan? I'm considering, I don't know if there's a pattern, if my thing, which is okay, I suppose, but do we do anything though, and are we looking at anything specifically to encourage our, vendors?
Let me speak to that. We use the federal procurement process, and so they don't give us those kinds of preferences to target things specifically to a geographic area.
No, I guess my question would be then, so this is strictly the lowest responsible bidder, that's what we look at, that's the criteria, right?
Well, we have invitation for bid, which is low bid, and then we have RFPs, which are requests for proposals. And in the request for proposals, we take price is not the only factor that's taken into consideration. So there's a set of requirements, if you will, about like in some instances, the organization's ability to do it, their track record, the people that they put on it. It's a number of different things. If we were, for example, if we were going to buy screws, we would put a spec out for a screw of a certain kind. We'd put it out, and whoever was the cheapest to bid it, we would do that. If we were putting out a construction contract, and that particular construction contract had certain things in it, we'd put an RFP out for that and evaluate their ability to be able to do it and pick whichever one best suited our needs. It may be the cheapest, but it may not. And what I will tell you in this one is uniforms, trying to get bus operator uniforms is a problem across the country, and it's a particular problem here. I don't want, we had a local vendor who chose not to bid, who we had been using, and
For
so we went to who we
28
had.
We've used that same local vendor for almost 28 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ivory.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to authorize to award the contracts for uniforms and bus operators as presented.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item, resolution to award a contract for anti-freeze coolant, gear oil, grease, and windshield fluid. Mr. Burt.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Smart's Board of Directors. It's the recommendation that the board adopts the attached resolution authorizing the award of a contract for antifreeze, coolant, gear oil, grease, and windshield washer fluid for Raleigh's Wholesale. This is a one-year contract beginning October the 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. No renewal options. At amount not to exceed $210,000. Any questions?
Any question for Mr. Burt? Seeing none, motion and order.
Make a motion to approve the authorization to award a contract for antifreeze, coolant, gear oil, grease, and windshield fluid as presented.
I'll support it, Mr. Chairman.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item, authorization to award a contract for oil and transmission fluid. Mr. Burt.
Yes, this is the recommendation that the board adopts the tax resolution authorizing a contract for oil and transmission fluids to Raleigh Wholesale. This is a one-year contract beginning October the 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025, with no renewal options. At amount not to exceed $630,000. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to authorize to award a contract for oil and transmission fluid as presented.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next item. Authorization to award a contract for diesel exhaust fluid for fixed route buses. Mr. Burke.
It is a recommendation that the board adopts the attached resolution to award a contract for diesel exhaust fluid for fixed route buses to Carey Brothers Trucking Repair located on Tillman Street in Detroit, Michigan. This is a 3-year contract beginning November 1st, 2024 through October 31st, 2027, with 1-year renewal options at an amount not to exceed $540,000 for the first 3 years, with 2 1-year renewal options at amount not to exceed $180,000 each year, totaling $900,000 for the 5 years. Smart has 259 fixed route buses that require diesel exhaust fluid for daily services. In 2010, the EPA mandated that the use of DEF fluid in diesel engines be used. DEF fluid breaks down the ammonia and reacts with the NOx emissions over a catalytic converter that changes the NOx into harmless nitrogen gas and water vapor. This is a contract that will provide Smart with the diesel exhaust fluid to perform its daily operations.
Any question for Mr. Burke?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. What was the clerical error made back in 2019?
Well, actually, I moved on to the next. That motion was actually for the next one.
Oh, I
not
see.
for the ratification, because he mentioned
Okay.
diesel exhaust fluid, but the next one. I moved to the next one because he mentioned it.
Okay. So which board item are we on right now? Sorry. The ratification, you had a question about, was a clerical error. So if you look at the last page of the, or in the board agenda and resolution, attached is the resolution from, I believe, 2020. And the last page of that, there is where it says therefore be resolved. It gives us one-year renewal option in actuality. And well, we exercised a second option. Our normal is to award contracts with a 5 or 3-year term with 2 1-year options. For some reason, this board agenda item and resolution mentioned only one.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the ratification as presented.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? All those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carry. Item 12N, authorization to award a contract for landscaping and lawn maintenance.
This is the recommendation that the board adopts a attached resolution awarding a contract for landscaping and lawn maintenance for its 3 terminals, Royal Oak Transit and the Melvin Dale Park and Ride. The United Landscaping located in Farmington Hills, Michigan. This is a 3-year contract beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2027, with 2 1-year renewal options at an amount not to exceed $174,082 for 3 years, 1-year renewal option for an amount not to exceed $57,861 for a total of $95,000 for 5 years. Any questions?
Any question for Mr. Burke? Motion be in order?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item 13, it's most, okay.
Number M, the letter M. Yeah.
You mean we skip?
I think we have to do M.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tiffany, I believe we have to go back and do M.
Yes.
I thought we did.
No, we did the ratification. We have to do
Okay.
M.
Yeah, that's what.
We need to vote on M.
No.
Okay. Okay,
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution for letter M, Mr. Chair.
yeah, okay, motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now we move to. Yes. Motion to close session. Any board member business?
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
have
Monaco.
a couple of items. At our last board meeting of the Lake Erie Transportation Commission in Monroe County, we had just found out, and I think I brought this up earlier in the year in the spring, about a reduction in funds from MDOT on both urban funds and non-urban funds. We had found out and talked to the SMART staff with Mr. Burns that our urban money was going from 40% to 26.3207%. And our non-urban monies were going down to 30.9021% from the state. We also found out we were getting a 12% reduction in 5307 funds, and that our Act 51 budgeted funds that we were looking at for 2025 at $2,324,752 were dropping to $1,947,000, another reduction of $377,752. Overall, our loss was over 1.3 million in funds. That was certainly a disappointment in receiving that news. And I know that under the state law, I think urban funds are 50% and non-urban are 60% that we're supposed to get. And I was just wondering if the staff might give us a report at the next meeting of the impact on SMART's budget. I know we at Lake Erie Transit are now scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to amend the 2025 budget with such a loss to our revenue. And if you might maybe report on that at the next meeting, I would most appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other board member?
Just one other item. In relationship to not entertaining a quorum and not having a meeting, if I wouldn't have looked at my email at the last meeting, I would have ended up in the same place here. And for me, coming from 3 miles from the Toledo border, it sometimes with the construction takes me as long as 3 hours to get to Detroit. So depending on accidents, construction, trucks, etc., I was glad to see that message that I wouldn't be sitting here all alone waiting for the meeting to happen. And I thank Tiffany for notifying me. But it is difficult today to get around the region. There is a lot of construction going on, and I hope in 2 or 3 years that will be gone and we'll be able to maintain a routine transportation to each meeting. And I do want to thank the board members for meeting in different locations, because it does take a little bit of time to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member like to comment? If not, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Order. Adjourn.